this video, I'm going to talk about 5 steps to being more secure in your relationships and how to work on healing your insecure attachment patterns. This is a question I get constantly in my private practice from clients, just asking, how do I create more secure relationships with people? How do I stop doing the same thing that I'm doing? How do I cure my anxious attachment pattern? It's usually people talking about anxious attachment patterns because often they're the people who are coming and suffering more with that because they're feeling a lot of anxiety in relationships and feeling the intensity of that. But I'd also say, if you are someone with a more avoidant attachment pattern and want to move towards more secure relationships, this video will also be helpful to you. So we're going to talk about 5 different pieces of this. I will say that working on your attachment patterns is obviously a deeper and longer process than any one video, but this is a good place to start. I want to tell you that I had a period of time where I had the desire or the urge to hit this big red escape button in relationships. It's not that I wasn't attached to partners, because I for sure was, but there was something that felt really relieving to me about exiting a relationship and about the knowledge that I knew that I could. That if I always had in the back of my head this feeling of, I can just hit the big red escape button and I can be out of here. There was something helpful about that to me, of never being 100% 2 feet in. And now I'm married and I have 2 kids with a partner and I am fully committed. And it's taken a lot of reprogramming and working past that feeling of when things aren't perfect and when things are hard or we're in a conflict of some kind, to not be in a mindset of, well, I can just leave, because frankly, I can't just leave. I'm married, we have a house, we have a family, and nor do I want to. But working on what is it that's part of me that feels like when I leave, and when I did leave in the past, I felt like, okay, I can count on myself now. It was like this hyper independence that had followed me from childhood that was like cozy and secure in this way, because I didn't have to rely on anyone else to do anything. I didn't have to be vulnerable. I could kind of go into my own space and live my life and really feel in this empowered place to kind of do my thing. And so that was my pattern. And I will still say that I think it's a wonderful thing to feel like you can depend on yourself and that you know that you can always come back to your relationship with yourself. But when I'm talking about something a little bit different, that sort of avoidant feeling of, oh, things are hard, I'm gonna leave. No, okay, I'm just moving on. I'm moving on to the next. I'm gonna start afresh, start anew. So in these 5 different parts that we're gonna talk about today, the first one I wanna talk about is awareness. What is your pattern? Are you aware of your pattern? Maybe you've taken a quiz online. It's a good place to start. However, look at your relationship history honestly. Sit down with yourself, sit down with a pen and a notebook perhaps, and just think about, what is the pattern? Are you going after emotionally unavailable people over and over again? Maybe you're not aware in the beginning, but then it kind of plays out. Maybe you are, you like the chase of that emotionally unavailable person, okay? What has that been for you? How have you noticed that over time? Maybe you're like me and like that big red escape button, and when things get too hard or you feel suffocated in some way, that you just escape or you're not fully committed. Okay, so I want you to just notice, what is the pattern that you see coming through your relationships? And that's the first step, is to be honest with yourself. I hear from people all the time this idea of, I'm just too picky. Okay, sure, some people are quite picky and maybe you're finding flaws in really small things. That is a thing that happens, but I will say that I think that can be a really big like catch-all excuse for not actually really sitting with and being honest with yourself about what's going on. Whether, you know, you felt a little rejected so you called things off, or whether you aren't wanting to be vulnerable, or whether you know, you're kind of putting all of these things in this bucket of, I'm just too picky. Okay, so now that you have some awareness of this pattern and you've thought about it for a moment, I want to ask you, what has worked about this pattern for you? We can't really move on from it and start trying to change it without acknowledging what it is you like about it. Granted, our attachment patterns are largely unconscious and they're coming from this drive from our relationships in childhood. Yes, this is true. But I want to ask you, like, what is cozy about it? If you are into the chase and you're always chasing after and trying to convince someone of the relationship with you, what is it that feels comfortable about that? What feels good and fun about that? Is it exhilarating? Does it feel like how you felt in childhood when you were trying to get like dad's love or mom's love, and you are repeating that, but there's something in that familiarity that you enjoy. Enjoy might be the wrong word. That's comfort. That's familiar. Okay, I want you to acknowledge that. If you are emotionally unavailable in your relationships, you're never letting anyone get too close, what is good about that for you? Like, you don't have to be vulnerable. You get the power, you get the control. You're kind of like, people are coming for you and chasing for you, and you're kind of like, whatever, take it or leave it, right? What is it about that that you've liked? Okay, I want you to just sit with that. Now, my next question, part 3, what hasn't worked about it? Why do you want a more secure relationship? Okay, so let's say you're the person who's chasing. Maybe that's fun and exhilarating. And when you get them to text you back and you get them to go on the date and you get them to say they love you or whatever, it feels really good. But what about all the other times when you're waiting for them to text you and you don't know if they're going to show up and you don't know if they're going to follow through, and they're up and down and hit or miss, and you're riding this roller coaster. The highs are high and the lows are fucking low, right? There's something intoxicating about a pattern like that, just like addiction of any kind. But what is it about the lows that have been painful and hard? Is it really worth the highs? Right? If you're watching this, there's probably a part of you that wants something more secure. When I say secure, I don't mean boring. I don't mean bland, but I do mean stable. So if you've enjoyed the high and the low to some extent, you've enjoyed the highs, you're gonna have to like grieve that a little bit of, that was fun. The high, that roller coaster, that feeling in my stomach, that thrill was fun, and I am gonna have to let that go. But I also acknowledge that none of that high was worth all of that low, and that I also get to choose to let go of that piece as well, right? Sometimes we romanticize things and we see only the good parts as opposed to the bad. And so I'm wanting you to hold space for both and to really see that the cycle and the pattern isn't worth the pain of that cycle and that pattern. Okay, what is it that you want when you think about security? Why do you want that? What would feel good and cozy about commitment, about knowing someone is showing up and that they're there and that you're showing up, knowing that when there's a conflict that you are gonna keep working through it, that you're gonna talk through it, that you're not just gonna hit the escape button, right? For me, that escape button was all about counting on myself, which was a very familiar feeling. It's a place I feel really, really good and safe. Like, I know how to get through a crisis and pick myself up and like, you know, get the haircut and go out and like reimagine myself. Like, that is a space I feel good and comfortable in. The harder piece for me was actually working through and feeling the uncertainty of the conflict and bringing my authentic self to that and loving someone through those ups and downs and honoring myself while also taking care of them, and all of that harder. Learning how to do that and having the relationship I have now because of that has been really awesome, remarkable, deep, lovely. It's a beautiful thing, right? But now that hyper independence that I feel and that I have, I get to kind of feel in other ways. I still get to let that part of me thrive and be. It just doesn't have to be that I'm blowing up a relationship to do that. I'll also say, if you're someone who's liking the chase and you like going for that and that kind of exhilaration, are there other places in your life you can get that need met? Can you sign up for like a triathlon or do some type of, you know, hike a 14er? I don't know why I'm thinking of only athletic things, but sign up for a class, like a pottery class that you've never done before. Like, do something that like feels a little like scary and that you're learning and you're trying to figure out. It might stoke that same part of you where you don't feel like you have to do that in a relationship, right? Like, honor that part and let it thrive somewhere else. Okay. So that's part 4. Where else can you find this excitement, this feeling? Let this part of you play out. I got a birthday card from my sister-in-law for my birthday last year, and she said something like, my wish for you is that your personal life is boring and your professional life is wildly unexpected and thrilling. And I thought that was such a funny and sweet thing to say. Shout out Stacy. In that, you know, I don't want my personal life to be boring, but I get what she means, that it's like expected, that it's stable, that I can count on it, that it's this secure base that I can come back to, so I can do all these other things out there in the world, that I can take the risks, that I'm not needing my relationship to be the place where I'm like taking the risks and getting that need met. When we think about attachment theory and we think about a secure base, in childhood, what a parent is meant to give a child in a secure relationship is that secure base, meaning that kid goes out and can explore the world, that baby, and they come back and they're secure. And that secure base, that foundation, allows that person, that kid, to go out and explore more in the world because of the security at home. And that is true of romantic partnership in adulthood too, right? That we have and we want a secure base in our partnership so that we can be our biggest, boldest, truest, most badass selves. If your base is insecure and there's chaos and there's ups and downs and there's lack of commitment and all of that, it's much harder to then go out and do all the things you want to do in the world, because here you're not safe and stable, right? So I'm just making a case for healing this, and working on this helps you be your biggest, boldest, truest self, and finding other ways to get that need met is helpful. Okay, lastly, part 5, remind yourself that having a different relationship requires doing something different. You're gonna have to tolerate the uncertainty of, you know, if you're more avoidant, like feeling fucking vulnerable when you're dating and putting yourself out there a little more. It's hard. It's really hard. It's much safer to just stay over here and be like, well, whatever, I don't care, versus actually putting yourself out there. I would also say that if you're more of the anxious type, it's going to require sitting with uncertainty as opposed to looking to that person and following up with them in order to try to get an answer and try to get things clarified. So tolerating these hard feelings is part of doing something different and getting to a new outcome. Okay, so 1 is awareness, understanding what the pattern is. 2, why has that worked for you? What has been good about it? What do you need to grieve about it to let go of it? 3, what hasn't worked for you? Why do you want something more secure? 4, where else can you find this excitement or this pattern? What other areas of your life can you get that need met? And then 5, remind yourself that getting something different means doing something different. We have to change behavior in order to change our life. So please subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow.